Welcome to my Pagoda video class. In this class we will be learning how to make the full pagoda, and along the way we will make our little satin ball and our teardrop and finishing up with the full pagoda. Makes a nice coordinating set, or they are standalone ornaments, each one. People like to give ornaments as gifts for Christmas. It's a great little gift to give, especially to people who don't care for beaded jewellery and you're at a loss what to make for them. Great gift. For someone that you might not know so well, the little beaded, the banded ball would be a perfect one. For someone you know a bit better, then you could go the teardrop, and for those that you really love, you could go and do the full pagoda, which is a lot of beading, so you really want someone who appreciates all the time and effort that goes into it. So we will come back and we will get started on making our pagodas. We're going to start with our equator row. This is the band that's going to go right around the largest part of the ball, and we're going to work off the ball, and we'll slide the work on once we've got a few rows done. Much easier that way. Okay, I'm going to have a little stopper bead. Just go through a tiny little 15 twice, and then I'm going to add 36, alternating 36 of the rulers and 36 of the 11 delicas. Now, the best way to do this is actually to count them out before you start, and then you don't have to worry and have to go back and count. So I'm putting them into my file, into my little piles of 10, and I'm going to need 36. So there's 30. And 3 and 6. That way I can put the rest away, out of my way, so I don't lose count. And we'll just check again. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 36. Count twice and cut once. That was a saying for when you're cutting wood. I'd say the same thing for beads. Count twice. Then you'll save yourself some grief. Okay, so it's really simple. We're just going to add one ruler and one delica. Ruler, delica. Ruler, delica. And once you've added all those, we will join them into a circle. So we won't have you watch me do all this, as it would be extremely boring. So we will be back. And here we are with our 36 beads, our 36 rulers separated by the delica. And now we're going to make this into a circle. So we're going to wrap it around, and we're going to go through the first ruler, the seed bead, and the second ruler. Okay, so you can see this. Now, we're going to turn, and the turn is really simple. We're going to go through the second hole of the ruler that we're coming out of. So now we're going to add a delica between the ruler on the other side using the second hole. And this will give us our nice firm base. And so we will be back once we've done that. So this is what you're looking for. Ruler with the two delicas between. We will come back on the next step. And here we are finishing up the row with our last bead, our last delica between those. I'm going to step up through the ruler and the first delica. And you can see we have a nice little band there. Okay, and the next row. For the next row, you're going to add the delicas in twos, and you're going to go through the next delica so that those two beads that you've just added sit on top. They sit up on top of the ruler. You can see there. And that's all it is on this row. Just two beads on top of every ruler. You can see a little tricky getting into those beads in there, but you just got to play around till you get them. Usually it's better to come in from an angle and grab it. So there you go. That is the next row. So we will come back when we've done this one. And we're back at the end of the row. I'm adding my last two delicas and going through, and I'm going to step up through the first bead of the first pair. So I'm now in between the first two of those delicas. And we are going to work the next row. Now this next row is the top row 3 in your tutorial. Switching to a different delica, the gold. And what you're going to do here is go through the second bead of the pair and the first bead of the next pair. You're going to cinch those two together and give that like a little picot. And that is what you're going to do all the way around for this row. Through the second of the current pair, first of the next pair. Second bead of the current pair, first bead of the next pair. In through the second bead of the current pair and the first bead of the next pair. So if you will do this all the way around, and when you get to the end of the row, I'll be back with you. And here we are back adding the last bead. On the last bead we go through our beads, our last two, and we step up through the first of the gold beads. And there we are. Our next row, which is row 4, we are going to add a little picot with some 15s. So I'm bringing in some gold 15s, one gold 15, gold delica, gold 15. There you go. And you're just going to go through the next gold delica. And you want to try and keep that gold delica up. It won't always, but it's easier if it stays up. I'll show you in on the next row why. And you're just going to go all the way around. 15, delica, 15, all the way around for row 4. And here we are at the end of the row. I'm adding my last 15, delica 15, and once that is in to complete my row, I'm going to step up through the first 15 and the delica. Okay, so this is where you want to be for row 5, to start row 5. And for row 5, we're going to bring in our turquoise, and we're going to add 2, and then we're going to go through the next 11 in that 15, 11, 15 set. So how I said for you to make sure that your delicas were sitting up. This is why it makes it life very easy if it's already sitting up. When they get tucked down like this, you may have a bead that looks like this, and so when you come to actually put your beads through, you have to fish for it. And if you bead tightly, your beads will not be sitting up like this. You do have to watch your tension on that, because if you bead tightly, you're more likely to have them tucked down. If you work tightly, at this stage, you may also want to slide this onto the satin ball, because you might get it too tight and have struggles later if you're a really tight beader. So with the ball, with the large hole up, slide gently, ease your beadwork over, and to keep it in place, use some straight pins. These are little lace pins, fine ones, and you can just pop them through with the balls being styrofoam. That's great to be able to just anchor your work to the ball. This way you're going to guarantee that your tension is not going to be too tight. So you would just put 4 pins in, and that anchors your beads there so that you don't work too tightly and for it not to fit. So that's your little tip if you're a tight beader. I am, but I've done so many of these now that I've kind of got the tension down. Let's pull these beads over here. Okay, so 2 beads and through the gold. 2 beads and through the gold. And that's all there is to this row. If you're a loose beader, you can follow as far as I go in the pattern and then slide the beadwork on onto the satin ball. It's just that I have found when I've not been watching myself and I've beaded tightly, it's been a little bit more difficult to get on. So this is for certain people I know who shall remain nameless, who live in New York. She now knows who she is if she's watching this video. And again, here we've got that little bead that's, you can see it's tucked down, and so you've got to come in from an angle and pull him up. And the thing that you may get when you do that too is that your bead sits below the gold, your gold 15. So you want to just make sure that that bead sits on top, nice and smooth. There you go. Okay, so finish this row up and we will come back and show you the next row. Moving right along here. And here we are at the end of row 5. So we finish our last stitch going through the gold. Straighten up that pair, you want those to sit right on nicely on top. There we go. And step up through the first pair. So now we are looking at row 6, and you can see once again I've taken it off the satin ball so I can show you if you're going to work off, if you're the looser beader, you don't put it on the satin ball. The advantage of not putting it on the satin ball is that they can be delicate. If you get your needle caught, you can, pull the thread out, and so I try not to do that. And that's why I try to work off the satin ball as much as possible. Okay, this row we're just going to add one of the turquoise delicas and go through the pair. And that's all there is to this row. If you keep it tight, keep it on your fingers and pull it out to the maximum, that also helps you not have your tension too tight when you're doing this. So that's row 6. We will be back to slide it onto the ball and do row 7. Here we are at the end of the row. And I'm also out of thread, so it's a perfect time to show you how to weave your thread in. Finishing my last stitch, I'm going to step up and I'm going to go through the gold underneath. This is just to finish the thread. And I'm going to work that and go across to the next step. And I've got the up beads, and I'm going to work another kind of like a square stitch. And I like to do this a few times to make sure that my thread is secure. And you can also, if you're feeling so inclined, go underneath the thread and then put your needle through the hole before you do your little square stitch. And just hope you will never have to rip it out. But you're following me on the video, so you won't have to. Okay, I'm going to finish the end of this thread and trim it off, and I will come back to show you row 7. I actually leave my my tail thread as a very long thread, a working length thread. And so now I've got the tail, I'm going to remove that little stopper bead because we're all in there. And I'm going to work with the tail thread coming out of here. So I need to step up through my ruler. And I'm just going to step up through the rows of beads. Go all the way through, come out of the gold, as you can see there. And as I like to work in the direction towards me, I'm just going to come back through the up delica, and I'm ready to go again for row 7. Now we are going to put this onto the satin ball at this point. So here we are again, small end, small hole, large hole. The large hole goes up. As you can see, it fits quite snugly over the ball. Make sure you get the hole centered. And you can see. So you can hold that on. If you want to secure it with the pins, you can. As you're working now, and we'll continue to work. I'm just going to hold it. I'm not going to secure it, which might be fun. If the ball flies across the room, you know I should have used pins. So we're going to add 2 15s for row 7. Through the up bead, 2 more, and through the next up bead. As simple as that. And that's it for the row all the way around, keeping your beads on the satin ball. And we're at the end of row 7, adding our last 2 15s through our turquoise and step up through the 2 gold 15s. Alright, so we're ready for row 8. And row 8 is, we are going to move away our 15s and we're going to bring forward our gold 11s. So we are going to go just 1 gold 11 through the 2 15s. 1 gold 11 through the 2 15s. And that is row 8. Nice and easy. You're loving this, right? This is why I enjoy this so much. It's just such a fun thing to bead. You get this great piece and it's just relaxing. There's no stressing of, you know, which way is it going to go, which way, how many beads am I going to count. It's just a very relaxing project. I hope you're all finding the same. And here we are, I have just finished row 8. Now I'm going to leave my thread attached because I'm going to come back and do some rows on here. But just so that it doesn't keep slipping off the ball, we're going to work the bottom section. Then it'll all be firm and nice and we won't have to worry anymore. So for that I need to add a new thread. So to add the new thread, I am going to go through a few of the rulers and the delicas. And I pull my thread through, and then I'm going to go underneath the thread. You see the needle going underneath that thread. And I'm going to pull that in so that I get a little loop, and then I'm passing my needle through the loop. This is going to create a little half hitch. You want to make sure that you get your threads to the side of the bead, so it just goes around the thread just goes around the other thread. Okay, and that's a little knot in there. I'm going to pass through and go through another little section, and I'm going to repeat that same little knot underneath the threads, pull to be a little loop, up through the loop, and make sure our knot sits against the bead. And one more time, through a few beads, under the thread, up through the loop, and pulling so that our thread, make sure that we don't get that bead in there and we don't have the thread wrapped around the bead. Pull it to the side, as you can see this, so that the knot pulls just around the thread, not around the beads. Now as you can see, that thread is in quite securely, so I can just step up through the delica, and I'm ready with my new thread sliding off the ball there. This is what we're doing so that this doesn't happen. After this row, a couple of rows, we won't have that happen again. So now we're ready to start our row 2 on the bottom. As this row, it can be a little bit difficult when it's on the ball, on the satin ball, to get through this bead, because you don't have much pliability when it's on the ball. You can slip the beadwork off, because we do know it's going to fit, and just work the beads in off the ball. You've got a bit more flexibility then to jiggle the beads around, so your needle can go in a little easier. And here's the last stitch. We try to make life as easy as possible, and that is one thing. You can see if I bend them, my bead is right there. Much easier. And we're going to step up through the first one of the first bead of the first pair. Okay, now we can slip our ball back on. Lovely snug fit there. Okay, so that's our row 2. Row 3 for the bottom is exactly the same as row 3 for the top, which means we'll be switching over to the gold delica. And again, you're going to go in through the second of the current pair and the first bead of the next pair, so that that gold bead sits in between. I'm just going to do that around. And in through. It's kind of cool that you get a different angle on this too. So you see, those are just the same as we did for the top. So finish this row and then we'll come back to do our row 4 for the bottom. We're back to do row 4. Now row 4 is another very easy row. We are just going to add 2 of the gold delicas and go through the next delica. It's a little bit different than the first side. Now if you have OCD and your OCD is kicking in and you have to have the symmetry, it's okay to do the symmetry. You can repeat the top section on the bottom if your OCD really gets to you. It won't matter. You'll be fine. I just have to change it up. I'm just like that. 2 sides the same. Let's change it up a little bit. Okay, so that's your row. Just adding 2 delicas. There you go. That looks, now we've got it so it just looks like the illustrations in your tutorial. There you go. Two gold delicas in each stitch. And I'll see you at the end of the row. Here we are on the last stitch of row 5. And so I'm going through the last pair and stepping up through the single. Okay, and now we're going on to row 6, and for row 6 we're going to add 2 of our turquoise delicas, and we're just going to go the same way, just 2 delicas per stitch going through the gold delica up bead. And you can see now, you know, that the beading is quite secure on the ball. We don't have that slipping off problem anymore. It's nice and secure. Okay, so continue going with this row. 2 beads, 2 turquoise through the gold, all the way around, and I will see you at the end of the row. And here we are at the end of the row. So we're going to do our last stitch and step up through the first pair. So I'll turn it upside down so you can see it like the illustration. Okay, so now we're going to work on row 7. And row 7 we're going to switch back to gold delicas. And for this row it is 1 gold delica per stitch. We're going for a little bit of a stripy effect here, so you'll see some vertical stripes coming in with the turquoise and the gold, like a gold pin stripe. And that's just what you'll do on this row. Okay, you can see that there. So that's this row. I'll see you at the end. And here we are at the end of row 7. And we're adding our last gold bead through the 2 turquoise and step up through the first gold. Okay, row 8, we're back to the turquoise delicas, and again we're adding 2 and going through the gold. So just continuing to get that nice little turquoise with a gold pin stripe. So continue on with this for the row, and we will see you for the end of the row and the beginning of the next one. And here I have just finished row 8, and one thing I wanted to say, if you find that these beads are sitting a little up and that they don't fit in fully, it may be that your beads are not far enough down the ball. So you just want to push the beading down so that your beads sit nice and even like this. And from there we head on to row 9. And row 9 is just adding a gold delica between the two the pairs of turquoise. And that is row 9. Nothing to it. You will get this done, and I'll see you at the end of the row. And here we are at the end of row 9, adding our last gold bead and stepping up through the first gold bead. Now here we change a bead size because our space is getting a little tight, so we're going to move into 15 seed beads. And you're going to add 2 of those and go through the gold. And this will snug it all up to the size of the ball as the ball's curving. Then our work will curve with it. And that is all there is to row 10. Just the 2 seed beads through the gold. And here we are after just stepping up from row 10, and we're going to start row 11. Row 11 is just another row of gold delicas in between the 2 15s. So this is all there is to this row. Just adding those gold delicas in there. And I will see you again at the end of the row. And here we are at the end of row 11, adding our last stitch. Our last gold delica through the two turquoise 15s and step up through the gold delica. Okay, and our last row on this, we're going to seal up the turquoise by adding some 15 in gold. Bring those over here, our little 15s. So again, 2 at a time, and 2 in and through the gold. 2 15s through the gold. Simple little last row. So that's what you're going to do for this row. Completely around like that. And when we come back, I'll show you finishing the thread off. We need to weave this thread in, and then we will go back and finish our top rows. So I will see you at the end of this. And here we're back for the last stitch of row 12. In through the gold. And I'm not stepping up this time because I'm going to weave the thread in. So I'm going to go back through the gold bead that's underneath and through the turquoise beads, and then I'm going to come back through the turquoise beads that are below, and then I'm going to go back through the ones again. So I did a circle around these 4 beads. It's good to have your thread cross itself when you're weaving in. And I'm just going to go back and do that 2 or 3 more times so that my thread is nice and secure. Backwards. Push those beads down. There we go. Up. And then this end is done for the bottom. The bottom is complete. Isn't that pretty? Just nice little stripes going down, all edged in gold. Okay, so I'll finish weaving this in and we'll come back and then we'll continue on with doing our top and finishing the top off too. Okay, so we will see you back shortly. And here we're back and I'm now at the top. I've rethreaded my needle with the thread we left for the top of the beading. And this is row 9 for the top. And I'm using our metallic, matte metallic, and I'm using 2 of the 15s. And we're just going to go a row in 2 of the 15s and through the single gold. That's all that is for row 9 on the top. A few done, and then you can see. There you go. And here we are on the last stitch, and I'm going to go through the gold and step up through the first pair of 15s. Okay, and now we're going to go back and use the bronze in the size 11 Delica, and that's row 10. Row 10, just 1 Delica per stitch, 1 Delica through 2 15s, Delica through the 2 15s, and that's just as it goes all the way around. Here we are at the end of row 10, and here we're adding our last bead and stepping up through the first of the bronze. Okay, row 11, we're going to go back to our little gold 15s, and once again we're going to add 2 per stitch, and that is all the way around for row 11. Nice and easy. You can probably see now why I say this is a really relaxing piece to bead. It's just so simple. You just put your feet up, watch TV and bead along. There you're seeing, we're almost there. We're going to add 1 more row after this one. We'll come back for that. Here we are for the last stitch of this row. Through our bronze, up through our 2 gold. And that completes row 11. Row 12, really nice and easy once again. It's all easy. This one is, I can honestly say, it's all easy on this. Here you go. Gold Delica. 1 gold Delica and through the 2 gold seeds, the 15s. Delica through the 15 pair. All the way around. And this is our final row, so you see we're finishing the edge in gold. And there you go, that's what that's going to look like. So you'll finish the row and you will weave your thread in. That is, you can weave your thread in if you're going to finish this, because I'm going to show you how to finish this with a bead topper, so that you could give it as a complete gift, because I know like a lot of people like to give these as gifts. And this is nice, quick and easy, so you know, your 3rd cousin removed might get this one. Your Aunt Mabel might get this one. And this one, well, that might be your bestest ever for the full pagoda. But we will show you how to do the bead topper in the next section. But if you're going to go on and do the full pagoda, you will, or even if you're going to go on and do the next stage, just leave your thread attached and we'll come back to that spot. Okay, finish this row and we'll see you later. And here we are with our finished ball. And before we move on to the next stage of pagoda, I'm going to show you how to make this into its own ornament by adding this little bead cap and loop. So we will get started making our little beaded bead. For this, you're going to use 6 of the little ruler beads. And we are going to do the same thing as we did at the beginning of making the ball, and that is alternate them with the bronze delica. So here I have my 6 rulers separated by the delica, the bronze delica. And now I'm going to make this into a ring by going through the first delica and the first ruler bead. Okay, so there's our little ring. Now I'm going to add into this gap, also going through the rulers, we could just make them sit right into that little ring, a little bit like Stonehenge. And we are going to add some 15 gold and some of the little drop beads. So 15, drop bead, 15. And you're going to ignore the delica and you'd go back through the ruler. Well, they're going to kind of sit on top. And the same thing all the way around through the next ruler, just so you see how they sit just nicely on top. Turn and go through the top hole of the ruler. That gives us our turn. And just flip the work over, move our tail thread away. And on this stage we're going to add the same bead through our rulers, the little delica, bronze delica. And we want to keep those up, so we're going to make our little rulers stand up. Make sure that your thread goes in front of the drop bead. Through the next ruler. Make sure that thread's on top, or it won't work. And the next one. And the last one. So you can see now that we have this nice little like bead cap that we've created here. And we're going to basically do the same thing as we've done before on the equator band. I'm going to step up through the delica. And I'm going to add those 2 bronze beads on top of the rulers. So 2 bronze delicas and through the next bronze delica. And you're just going to have to push those babies up there to make them sit on top. They're going to want to slide down. 2 more. Another 2. It's quite easy when you're doing this to get it through the delica that sits in between, because you've got such a tight circle. There's plenty of room to access access that bead. Next one. Make sure that they're all sitting on top. And our last one. Our last one, we're going to step up through the first of that first pair. There they go. Okay, so they're all sitting up top. Our tail thread out of the way. And again, like your base, your equator band, you're going to add a gold. So you're going to go through the second of the current pair and the first of the next pair. Second of the current pair, first of the next pair. Second of the current pair, first of the next pair. Two more, three more. There we go. And again, half stitch through. One more, and I'm going to step right up through that gold bead. The first one that we did. Okay, now you can see it sitting on top. And our next row is our turquoise delica. And we're just going to work regular peyote, one bead per stitch, turquoise going through the gold. All the way around. And step up through the first turquoise. So you can see as you pull that tighter, you can see our bead cap is now pretty much complete. We're going to go around these beads to just give them some strength. And at this point in the tutorial, I go straight into showing you to add the loop, the hanging loop for this ornament. And what I'm going to show you here is I'm going to leave this thread attached. I'm going to attach the bead cap to the satin ball, and then I'm going to do the fancy little trick to fill that hole in at the bottom, which I haven't included in the tutorial. I may have to add that. With the little circle all tightened up, ready to go over the large hole in the satin ball. But I did tell you I would show you the trick to fill the hole in the other end if you're someone who's perfectionist and is unhappy with that hole being there. I've taken the needle off and threaded into a long doll making needle. And I'm going to go through the center hole of the beaded bead we've just done, the bead cap, and go straight through the satin ball. Okay. And at this point, I'm going to have to change needles. This is the faffing thing with it, is that you have to change the needle, or if you can get your little drop bead and you can thread it without adding a needle, that'll save you a step. We thread our dull needle back up, and we're going to go back up through the hole and through the bead cap. And you see we get that hole is now filled with that little drop. Just fits in there perfectly. Now if you wanted to add a larger drop and so that it showed below the ball, you could well do that too. Okay, now we've got our thread back where we need it to be. Get back to our regular needle. Okay, so I have now re-threaded my needle and it is coming out of the top hole of the beads. And at this point I really want to anchor the bead down. I have it on the tutorial where you actually don't anchor the bead yet, but so I'm just going to weave down so I come out through the ruler. You can see I'm weaving down to come out through the ruler, and then I'm going to go change direction to bring me out on that bottom level, and I've stepped up to exit the gold drop. And now you want to make sure that your bead cap is centered and hold it tight if you hold it from the top and the bottom so it's nice and firm. And then you're going to go underneath the silk, the satin's threads, and you can see I'm going under a few, and then I'm going to go through the next drop bead. See, the thread disappears, you can't see it. And I'm just going to do this all the way around so that the bead cap is actually sewn onto the ball. This just makes it very, very strong for that hanging thread. Now in the tutorial I have you do the loop first because I didn't put this last bit of bead in. So you can follow the tutorial or you can follow the video. It'll get you there. Okay. And you can see we now have our bead cap attached. Okay, so I've secured my bead capper on, and now I'm going to weave back up to the top again. And I'm going to do so. I exit the turquoise bead in the last ring of beading. Now I'm going to add the hanging loop. Now I have chosen to use the 15 bead. You could also use a size 11 seed bead for this. And make the loop as long or short as you feel that you need. Here I'm using 50 of the 15s. So I'm just going to string these up, and then we're going to attach them. So all of these were pre-counted so that I didn't have to worry about it. Going and counting on my thread. Someone said to me the other day, they saw me do the video and said that they hadn't added their beads like this. They would pick them up individually and string them. And I was mesmerized with that because it's like, wow, that would take an awful lot of time. I think she learnt this little trick and her beading went and speeded up about 10 times. Bead mats are great because they allow you to press down and just let your bead basically jump onto your needle. You just press on the edge and the bead kind of jumps on. So now I have my beads strung. I'm going to cross over and go through the turquoise. As I'm coming out this side on the turquoise, I want to go in the opposite way on the turquoise, directly opposite, if I can get my needle through there. Okay, And then I'm going to come back up through all of the beads that I just strung for our loop, trying not to miss any. I hate that when I miss one and I see that little thread and the bead sitting off and I have to redo it, and I've always finished my thread off. I can guarantee if ever I make that mistake, my thread is gone. Okay, let's try not to get them tangled up. I'm doing this loosely so I can cinch it up once I've got through everything. Through the last few. And then we just want to make sure that we cinch this up so it's nice and tight and there's no thread being left. Cinch, 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 cinch. Gently does it. Takes a little bit of effort here. But gradually that thread disappears and gets taken up. Okay, so now we're back over at that starting bead. Now if you can see, and let's just zoom in a little here so you can see what I'm doing. You can see here that as the beads are coming down, they naturally lay to this side of the turquoise bead, and that is because that's where the thread came out. I want to center them over the bead, so I'm going to go through that turquoise bead in the opposite direction. And that way our beads are centered and we have our little loop. Now all is required is finishing up the threads, and we have our little bead capped ornament. So I'm just going to weave in these threads and we will come back and we will go on to stage 2 of the pagoda and make the second ornament, and that would be this one. So we're going to start working our quad horn towers. We will be right back. And here we are back, ready to work on the top quad horn tower. And I'm exiting back where we finished off before, exiting the last row, the gold delicas. Now we're going to add 4 sections of beading, and each section has 13 gold delicas. You can see I've counted them all out here so that we can move along quickly. That's our 13 gold delicas, 1 gold 15, and then 13 more gold delicas. Now, what we want to do here is we want this to go in, because we had the 36 beads around and we're going to put 4 sections on, then each section has got to be 9 beads. So we want to count off our 9. Okay, we've come in closer so that you can see this. I'm coming out of this bead and I want to count 9 around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'm going through the 9th bead. And you can see it sits up against the ball with that little space in between. Now we want to secure this. It's not going to be secure enough just to be hanging into that one bead. So we're going to do like a little square stitch and go back through the bead below and then back through the gold one we just came through. Just gives it a little extra strength. And we're going to add another section, the same thing. We're going to add 4 sections like that. So again, our 13 delicas. Our 115. Slide those down. And the next 13 delicas. Once again, we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and through the 9th bead. Do our little square stitch again, through that bronze bead below, and then back through the gold that we were just coming out of, we worked into. Okay, so you can see we're now at the halfway point. We have our 2 sections. I'm going to add 2 more of these and then we will come back. And here we are, just finishing up that last section. So I've gone through the gold and I'm turned back through the bronze bead. Now I'm going to go back through the gold bead and the first bead of the first 13 section. Now we're going to switch to the bronze beads. And we're going to work into these little 13 sections, peyote stitch, and we're going to work 6 stitches up. It's always a little tricky doing the third row of peyote, working into those long line. Careful not to cut, get your thread going through the satin. And this is where you can snag your satin ball. Okay, through our last one, it's been stubborn. Okay, going to have to play with my beads here. Okay, there we go. So there we have the 6 stitches of bronze up. Our next stitch, we're going to add 2 gold delicas because this is going to be an increase. So we're going to skip that little 15 that's in there and go through the next delica. That means that these 2 gold beads will sit on top of that 15. You see that. And now I'm going to work another 6 stitches with the bronze beads. Always tough this row. There we go. That's 5. And our 6th bead. Now our 6th bead brings us right to the end of the section. So you can see here my thread is coming out of that last bead right above our joining bead. And this is where we decrease. We are going to go through the first of the golds on the next section. And you see this brings these 2 little beads here, the 2 gold delicas, close together to form a little V. and that is our decrease. Now we're going to work our 6 stitches up this way in the bronze. Push our beads down so we can sort them out. And we're just going to do exactly the same on each section all the way around. If I show you, you can see where we're adding the 2 golds for the top, we're going to end up with this line of golds going here, the double column. You can start to see how the shaping comes about right there. So that's what we're going to create. So I'm going to repeat this section with our 2 golds at the top for our increase and our decrease down by the band all the way around, and we will come back. Okay, so I have just finished row 3 and I have stepped up coming through the gold bead and the bronze bead. My thread's coming out of the bronze. And now we're going to work row 4. Row 4 is worked in the bronze beads, and it's 6 stitches of bronze beads, just peyote. And it's 6 because we're doing an increase and a decrease on every row, so or in every section, so the number of beads never changes. It's always going to be 6 until we start to close it. And up, that's our 6th, and that takes us into the gold, the gold pair at the top of the point. And into there, we're going to add 2 more gold beads. So go through the 2nd bead of the current pair, pull it in, coax them to sit right, and you can see there that's the start of that channel of gold. And we go 6 stitches down. That's our 2nd, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we're going to do our decrease. So we're going to go straight, skip that gold, the gold's at the bottom, and we're going to go straight up through the bronze bead. And then we're going to do our 6 bronze again, so that we have all 4 points the same. So keep working on that, and I'll see you at the end of the row. And here we are at the end of row 4. I've just added my last bronze bead, and I'm stepping up through the 2 bronze beads of the next section. Now we're going to change color, and we're going to move into some turquoise. But the same thing, the same exact stitch that you're going to do. These rows are just all the same at this point. This whole section is just working the 6 rows with the increase and the decrease, and just working your color pattern out so that your stripes are all in the right places. Our 2 golds in the point. And our turquoise. Going up, going down. It's kind of like, you know, the zigzag or the rickracs that are popular right now. This is kind of based on those ideas. It's the contemporary geometric principle. Geometrics have been around for a long time, and we're just utilizing them with the contemporary geometric beadwork. Our decrease. And so you're just going to continue like this for the next few rows, and we will come back. You'll be changing colors, but as this is all very much the same, watching me do it, like watching paint dry. I think by now you should have what you're doing for the row. For these rows, your 6 beads up, your 2 in the point, 6 beads down, and your decrease. And that's all it is for these few rows until we get to the point where we add our tip of the points and start to decrease. So follow your tutorial for the colors, and we will see you back, and we should be quite high at this point. We are moving on to do the top section. So this is what we're going to accomplish. So when you come back, you're going to be at this point right here. Okay, we'll see you then. I'm just going to show you what things look like after row 9. You can see we're getting some nice shape going on there. You can see how your beads are laying against the ball. Very smooth around here, and we are getting those horns coming up. So you can see the shape forming that we're going to get here. Okay, just wanted to show you that so that you get some visual reference. So keep going, and we'll be back when you get up to the top section for on the pagoda. It's just this short little section, so you can see where we are for that. Okay, and we are back, and you can see I actually have 2 of these made up. The small one is the top of the pagoda for the full pagoda, and I've stopped at row 14, and I'm ready to put my drops onto my horns. For the and we'll come back to this one later. As we're going to do the second of the second stage, which is this one. We work more rows up until row 25, up to row 25 here, and then we're going to be putting the drops on. And the way that we do this is the same for both, for the short and for the tall. So it's just the same manner of closing the tower and putting the loop on. So that's what we're going to work on now. Okay, so here we are, and we are going to be working on row 26, which is where we add our little drops. So we're going to be working, for the tall one, we're working on with turquoise beads. And it's just the same as you've been doing, your 6 stitches going up to the point. If we can do it in an angle where you can see. And our last stitch. Now here is where we would usually add the 2 gold delicas. This time all we're going to add is one of our drops. And then we're working our 6 stitches back down. And here we are finishing up row 26, adding my last turquoise, and I am stepping up in our usual way. Now I'm going to work, this is kind of the setup row for the decreasing, and I'm going to work it all in the gold beads. And so we are just going to work the 6 stitches up and then just go through the drop bead and then 6 stitches down. And that is all there is to this row. And we will start closing these up. These golds will sit around there and create that little point. Little 4 gold bead base for the drop bead to sit on. And those will start to close up on the next round. So we will see you for row 28. Okay, here we are at the last stitch of the row, and we are going to step up. Now you will be referring to the top quad horn section on your pattern for closing the top from this point on, and that's whether you're doing the large or the small, the top or the bottom horn, quad horn. So we're going to work in the turquoise from here on out. And basically you're just going to continue up as we have been doing, except we'll be doing a decrease instead of an increase at the top. We'll still be having our decrease in the center, in the valley of it, but this is how we do the decrease. And we're just going to go through the second gold to close those golds up on the point. So you're missing the bead, you're just going straight through that gold. And then head back down. The 6 we still have. We are at 5 stitches here because we decreased. So we've gone from having 6 up, 6 down to 5. And those numbers will continue to decrease with each row that we do. And up we go. So there again, you've got your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and decrease to go downhill. And then your 5. Adding 2 bits at a time is not going to make it go any quicker. So that's 2 down, 3, 4, and 5. So you can see at the top now we're beginning to close that horn up. So you'll continue around and we'll meet back for the next row. I think I may have said that our last row was row 16. It was actually row 17. I get confused sometimes. I put it down to old age. Okay, so now we're actually on to row 18. And row 18, we are working in the same manner with the turquoise beads. And you will see this time, that's 2, 3, and 4 beads up. And then we're going to close that with the decrease, going through the first turquoise on the downside. And we're working our 4 beads coming down. Oh, don't get that thread caught. See, it happens to me too. Okay. So here we have our decrease in the valley. And we're back up to do the next horn. 4 up, close the top, 4 down, close the bottom. Decrease, decrease. And we'll be back when we finish the row. And here's how it looks at the end of row 18. You can see we're beginning to see it close up. So row 19, we're only going to have 3 beads going up. Three up, do the decrease, and 3 beads down. Woohoo, getting caught on things. Okay. Our 3rd bead down and our decrease. So you can see this horn is getting very closed in now. And that's what you're going to do all the way around for all 4 horns. We will be back. We are at the end of row 19. It's looking getting closer and closer to being closed up here. Row 20, you've just got 2 beads going up. Then your decrease. 2 beads going down. And the decrease. Two up. And decrease. Okay, and we will be back. Okay, so I'm finishing up the row here. So you can see as we're going in, and you've got to watch the angle for you doing your step up, because the beads are going to close in now. So we're doing our step up at the end of our row. And on this row we just have 1 bead and our decrease, 1 bead and our decrease, one bead and our decrease, one bead. I'm showing you this because you can see that the angles get a little bit convoluted how you're putting your needle through. One bead, decrease, one bead, and decrease. our last bead, oh, next to last bead, last decrease. There, our last bead. Okay, and then we're going to step up, and you can see I've got to kind of twist this around here so I can get my needle up those 2 beads. You can see we've actually closed it in and we've got this little tiny gap right now. I got to the end of the row and now I'm going to step up 1 more bead. So I'm going across, so I'm onto the down side of the beads. And for this row I'm going to add 1 gold where my normal V decrease would be. I'm adding 1 gold bead, 1 gold delica, and then I'm going through the decrease. 1 gold bead, going up, and then down for that decrease. Another one, up, and down, adding the last one, going up and down. And this is really pulling our horns in very tightly. Now I'm going to step up through that first gold bead that we added. Keep your tension nice and taut at this point so that we keep a nice close little finish here. And our next row we're going to switch to the 15s, gold 15s, and we're just going to add 1 gold 15 in between each of the gold delicas. Little tricky getting your needle in there. You can see that pulls it really nice and tight for the center, so we get that nice finish. Now you want to go through all of these 8 beads again because we want this to be a nice secure little center circle, so it holds the horns in. So I'm just going through each 15 and each 11. Just shove my needles through. And the 15 and the 11. Until that you feel that that is really strong and it's going to keep the shape. And those are your horns complete. Okay, so we finished up exiting a delica. We're going to add 2 delicas, skip the 15, the next 15, and go through the next delica. Then we're going to go through the next 15 and the next delica. And then we're going to add 2 more delicas. Skip over the next 15 and go through the next delica and 15. So you can see I have these 2 there. You can see I have my 2 delicas sitting kind of the same way that these beads are sitting. Looks like herringbone. And that's what we're going to do with it. So now you've got to step up through that bottom delicate of our circle and step up through the first delicate of the gold pair. Okay, you can see that. And now I'm going to work a herringbone strand. So a herringbone strand is 2 beads, go through the next, the second of the pair, and if you can do it, if you can't, it's not a big deal, but if you can, you can go through the 15, kind of underneath, and then step up through the 2 delicates. If you just have to step up through the 2 delicates, that's fine. Okay, if you can see this. This is a little trickier when we're first starting this, when we've got a few rows of this done, you'll be able to see. So adding 2 delicates and then coming across and going up the 2 delicates, last 2 delicates on this side, top 2 delicates. Add 2, go down 1, come across and go up the 2. If you didn't feel like this, you could just do a strand of, say, 11 gold seed beads. That would work too. I just like to put a little herringbone strand in there to keep in with the design of the pagoda up to. So that's all that you're going to do, to just keep adding these beads to give us our hanging loop. So I'm going to add some more. We'll come back and show you how to join it. And here I am finishing up my strand of herringbone. I'm just going to step up off my last stitch. I have done 48 stitches here, 49 stitches. So I basically have the 49 beads going this way. And I'm going to join it to these 2, the original 2, and that will bring us up to the 50. It's about 2 3/4 inches, just shy of 3 inches. You can bead it longer or shorter, whatever is your preference. To join it, we're going to fold it over and make sure that we come in the right bead. Okay, and so we're going down to that 2 that we'd set there from the beginning. Come over and come up as if you were doing the stitch. And I like to go up a second bead and then down. Thread over, come up those 2 beads and go down 2 beads, and I have my loop. We have our teardrop ornament, and that would be complete. So I'm going to finish off this thread and then we will come back and I'll show you the first couple of rows of closing the smaller, shorter quad horn tower for the full pagoda. Okay, I'm going to show you also how to finish the small top horn, quad horn tower, just because the bead coloring is a little bit different. So here we are after row 14, and we're going to add row 15, which is our turquoise beads. 6 on the way up. There's 4, 5 and 6. We're going to add in our drop bead and 6 of our turquoise beads on the way down. And then we do our decrease, and we do our other 4 points in the same manner so that we have that nice drop bead on top. Okay, so we will come back at the end of this row. Got our drop beads on all of our horns, and we're moving on to row 16. And as you see here, I'm working the 6 stitches in the turquoise beads. And that last stitch, we just go through the drop bead, and then we're set to work down. Just down. Our 6 beads, that's 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we do our decrease in the valley. And we're climbing back up again with another 6 beads. And so you will continue that all the way around. From this point, you will follow the instructions, and you will do just as we did for the tall tower, and finish that up and put the loop on it. Then you will be ready to work the tall tower on the bottom. And I'm going to set you up for that one shortly, so that you can see the bead placements for the bottom tower. We will be back. Okay, to add the beads for your bottom tower, you're going to make sure that you have the thread exiting. You kind of have to trickle down here from the point where your horn started, where your point started on the top. You're going to follow the beads down, and you'll see that the beads that correspond are these 15s right here. So you want to weave your thread to make sure that it's coming out of those 15s that are directly below. And then you're going to add in exactly the same manner as you started your horns for the top. And that's with 13 of the gold delicas, 1 of the gold 15s, and then 13 more gold delicas. I previously counted these out. Okay, and then you're going to count again your 9 sections. So this time it's 9 pairs of the gold 15s. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and go through the 9th pair. And you're once again going to make that secure turn. So you're going to go below, through the beads below, and then back through the 2 golds. And that's the only difference that you're going to have to doing the top section. So you now know how to do this bottom section, so we will come back with the bottom section done, and then we'll be adding the wings on to make the full pagoda. Okay, we are now at the stage where we have our completed first stage ball. Our teardrop ball is done, and now I have worked the top small quad tower, and I've also worked the tall quad tower on the bottom for the full pagoda. The next thing that we're going to do is to add the little triangle drop that we put on the bottom. Again, keeping this geometric, I thought it would be cute to add the little puffy triangle. So we're going to make this this section next and add this in before we go to adding on the wings. And here we're going to make a puffy triangle. So we're going to start with 3 bronze beads, and I'm going to make those into a little circle or triangle, because we are making a triangle. And we go back up so that that's nice and secure. Okay, that's row 1. For row 2, we are going to add 2 beads per stitch, again using the bronze. So just 2 beads per stitch. Nice and simply done. And we're going to step up through the first bead of the first pair. Okay, this is what you're looking at. There you go. Okay, for the next row, row 3, we're going to work in gold. We're still going to add 2 beads into what will become our corner. You'll see as it grows, it really turns into the corner of the point. And the next gold I add, which is on the side, will turn into the center of our little bronze flowers. Back at the corner, and we add 2 more golds. Another gold for the flower center, and 2 golds into the corner. They'll sit right. And our last flower center, and this is where we're going to step upping through the first gold of the next gold pair. There you go. Okay, now we're going to keep gold beads into the corners, so every corner is going to be worked in the gold. But on the sides now, we're going to switch back to the bronze bead, our matte bronze. And that's 2 stitches down the side, on the sides. 2 gold in the corner, and 2 bronze down the side. Two gold in the corner, and 2 bronze. Oh, got my hair in there. 2 bronze down this side. Okay. The next row, we're going to add our 2 gold in the corner. And we're going to work 1 turquoise, bringing in our background color, 1 bronze, which was the final petal of our little bronze flower, if you can see that little bronze flower there, and another turquoise of the background. So you're now at 3 beads down the side. Our 2 golds into the corner, and the same thing down this side. 1 turquoise, 1 bronze, and 1 turquoise. There we go. 2 gold in the corner, 1 turquoise, and 1 bronze. Our last turquoise, and we do our step up through the 2 golds. Okay. Next row, 2 golds. This time we're going to put all turquoise, and there's going to be 4 stitches. So 3 and 4. Two golds and our 4 turquoise. Give it a turn, and our next corner. And our last 4 turquoise. And of course we're going to step up through the 2 golds. Give it a turn. And next row, 2 golds, two golds in the corner, and our new row are 2 golds in the corner, and we have 5 turquoise down the side. Our 2 gold, and we would work our 5 down the sides. So we will come back at the start of the next row. And here we are at the end of the row and stepping up through our 2 golds. Our next row we're going to start working on another row of the little flowers. So 2 golds in the corner, and then we're going to work 1 turquoise, 1 bronze, which will be the base, the first petal of the next flowers, 2 turquoise, 1 bronze, and 1 turquoise. Okay, so we're going to do that on each side, and we'll be back. Okay, and so I'm just finishing off the last stitch and stepping up on this row. Okay, and now we're going to add the 2 golds in the corner, 1 turquoise, make our beads sit correctly, and then we're going to work the 2 petals of the bronze flower. Just 1 turquoise, and then 2 more of the bronze for the petals. Finish up with 1 turquoise, and we're into the corner again. So each side of the triangle is done in that manner. We'll be back. And here I am adding the last stitch to this row. Now our next row is going to be the turn row. So it's going to be a little bit different in that we're going to add some drop beads. So instead of adding the 2 gold in the corner, we're going to add a gold drop bead. And then we're going to work 2 turquoise. And then a gold for the center of our flowers. 2 more turquoise. The gold for the flower center. 2 more turquoise. And then we're ready to add our second drop bead. Okay, and that's all there is to this row. I'll meet you back here. And here we are at the end of the row. And our step up this time is through the gold bead and the drop. So there we are, our triangle with our little drops on each corner. Next row, we're going to start decreasing. So now we've increased, this is our maximum increase point. Now we're going to go and basically work it all backwards with decreases to get back into the center again. So we're starting with a gold, 1 turquoise, 2 bronze, 1 turquoise, 2 bronze, 1 turquoise, and a gold. And the gold, you go through the drop bead. Okay, so that is your row. Just work the same thing on the other sides, the other 2 sides, and we'll be back. And here we are stepping up at the end of the row. So I've come through the drop bead and I'm stepping up through the first gold. So we start this row with a gold bead, and then we're going to work turquoise, a little hair in there, and a bronze, 2 turquoise, a thread caught, 1 bronze, 1 turquoise, and 1 gold. Now this is where we do our decrease, and what we're going to do is we're going to skip the drop bead and come right through the next gold bead, and then we add a gold bead, and you can see that that is going to give us our little point as it closes up. Okay, continue working and work your row just the same way, adding your bronze to finish your flower, the turquoise background, another bronze to finish that flower, turquoise background, and the gold. 1 gold, skip the drop bead and go through the next gold bead for the decrease. Okay, 1 more row, 1 more side to do, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, here we are, ready to step up. So now I'm stepping up through those 2 gold beads. That does our decrease, the decrease, and the step up at the same time. So you can see we're actually getting a little bit of a shape going on there for our triangle, which is just what we're looking for. Next row, 1 gold, and then we're working across in the turquoise. So you will have 5 stitches in the turquoise. Oh, we missed the bead there. Drop the bead off, didn't notice. Okay, 4 and 5. Add a gold and do our decrease. And we're ready to work down the next side. So you'll work both sides in the other 2 sides in the same manner, and we'll be back at the end of the row. So here we are, having stepped up. On our next row, 1 gold, and now 4 stitches of the turquoise on the sides. And then after the 4 stitches, we're at our corner, and so 1 gold and do our decrease. A little rotate and your gold, and then you would work your 4 turquoise on your another corner and along. So we'll meet you back at the end of this row. We are at the end of the row after our step up. Now this row we're going to start adding the center flowers again. 1 gold, 1 turquoise, our bronze to start our flower, 1 turquoise, our gold bead, our decrease, and then the gold, turquoise, bronze, turquoise, our gold corner with our decrease, turquoise, bronze, and turquoise, our gold, and our step up, decrease and step up here through those 2. Okay. For the next row, you're going to add your gold in the corner. This time it's 2 bronze, a gold in the corner, and our decrease, rotate it, gold, 2 bronze, gold, decrease, gold, bronze, bronze, gold, and our decrease and step up through both of those. You're almost closed here. Okay, so next row is actually all gold because we've got the gold in the corners, we have the gold for the center of the flower, and again the gold for the corner. And our decrease, our little rotate, make life easy, gold for the corner, gold for the flower center, gold for the corner, and our decrease. Gold in the corner, gold for the center, and our gold in the corner, and our decrease and step up. And here we go again. Now we're only using bronze. So here we go with our row of bronze. We're still going to do the decrease in the corner, but we're working entirely in the bronze beads. Our 2 bronze with our decrease. Two bronze, decrease, and step up through the bronze. And this is our last row, and we're just adding 1 bronze, our decrease, one bronze, our decrease, and our last bronze, and our decrease and step up. And now we have closed it. We're just going to secure those last 3 beads by going around them. A couple of times. And then you would weave your thread in, and you have your little puffy triangle. Section where we're going to add the triangle, the puffy triangle drop to our pagoda. You may notice my pagoda has gained wings. This is because this is a reshoot section. You can add it right at the end, or you can add it following just adding the bottom tower. I've actually changed out to a thinner needle that's got a bit more flex in it. I've strung 25 size 11 seed beads, and now I'm going to join into the puffy triangle. I'm going to work into the center bead, and this is why I needed a flexible needle, because getting in here can be a little tricky. There we go. So you're going to come in that center needle coming in from the middle. And then we're going to go inwards in the bead below. There we go. This is a little tricky, and the thinner, more flexible needle does help. Then we're going to go through, so you will also notice on the tutorial I mark these beads 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now I'm going to go through beads 3 and 4, and then I'm going to come back through bead 5. So you can see my threads are now both in the center of the triangle bead. I'm going to pull this down, gently draw this in, she says, so that our beads are snug up. I'm going to go back up through the strand of beads. Making sure I go through every single one. Okay, so now we're back up at the top. From this point, we're going to cross over, and we're going to come in through the bead, the 11 bead opposite. This is where having a flexible needle can be good and can be not so good. Okay, and now as I pull, you'll see that this centers the beads right in the middle. And now I'm going to work this thread around through the gold beads in the center so that I exit the bead where I started. And thread's getting caught on wings. Okay. Now, we're going to go back up the strand of beads So I have gone back up the strand of beads, and now I'm going to come in and I'm going to do that same 5 bead maneuver on the other side of the triangle. That's bead 2, go through beads 3 and 4. And then we're going to come back in through bead 5. And then we will go back up our strand again. We can see the 2 threads on each side of the bead that go into the strand. When we pull this over, you'll see that there's only 1 thread, and you see how the bead is kind of tipping. That's because that's the bead you need to go back through, and so it centers it on top. It gives it the balance. And from this point, you're just going to weave your thread in and carefully trim it. So make sure it's secure, and then you can just trim it away and your drop is attached to your pagoda. Okay, we will be back. Oh, you may see that as you've been holding your puffy triangle, you might have knocked the puff out of it. So you might just want to put your needle in and give it a little squeeze on the edges to puff it right back up again. Just lifting the beads. And we've got our puffy triangle back. So there you go. And here we are ready to add the wings for our pagoda. So we're going to start with the top wings. And you want to weave in a thread so that it's coming out at the same section as when you added the top tower. Let's zoom in so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. So you see, you want to have your thread exiting this gold bead here. And in the same way that you added for the top tower, we're going to add exactly the same, which is 13 gold delicas, and I have pre-counted them, so I definitely advise that. Makes life, you know, quite quick. 1, so I've added the 13 delicas plus 1 15 seed bead. And now I'm going to add 13 more delicas. Our 13. And in the same way that we added before, we're going to go over to the next point and we're going through. And we're going to do our little safety turn. So we're going to go back through the bead below, just for that security, and then back through the gold bead again. So you're going to have this loop. And you will do that with all 4 of the sides. So 3 more times you will do that, and then we'll come back for our what will be row 3 of the pagoda wing. And here we are back with our 4 loops, 1 on each side. Okay. And now we're going to do our third row of peyote. I have stepped up through the gold bead, the first gold bead on the loop of 13, 113. And I'm just going to work this row in bronze. So just working your peyote row. In the bronze beads. You will have 6 stitches like you did when you were doing the haunt towers. Oh, we all love that third row of peyote. Caught on our towers, and our 6th bead brings us to be on top of our little 15 bead. And just as we did before, we're going to add on top of that 2 of our gold delicas. So the next stitch, you'll go through the next 11, putting your 2 gold beads on top of that 15. You can see there. And then we work our next 6 in the bronze. Caught on the horns. Tricky. It's tricky. Not difficult, just tricky. Okay. Now, we have our 6 stitches going down of the bronze. The way that this differs from the top, because if we continued the same way as the top, we'd end up with another set of another haunt tower. So in between where you did the decrease for the towers, you're going to add a bronze bead. So you're just going to treat it as a stitch. Okay, can you see this? There you go. And then continue up the next section with your 6 bronze stitches. Gets a lot easier once we've got this row in. So that's our 6 up. See there? Now we're ready for our increase of the 2 golds over that will sit over that 15 bead. And then our 6 bronze beads. I'm caught on my tripod here. Sorry, the beads pulled off the screen. Okay, so there's 3. Nudge them into place there. 4. 5. 6, and we're back at the point. So once again we're going to add the bead in there, bronze bead. Okay, and then you will continue and do the other 2 sections the same way, and we'll come back after that. Okay, and here we are at the end of the row, and we're adding that last bronze bead that sits right between the 2 threads, the 2 sections. So as I add that, I'm also going to step up. So here we are coming out of the bronze. And our next row, in fact the next 2 rows, are the same. We are basically going to be adding the bronze. Much easier to work now. Now we've got that dreaded 3rd row out of the way. And we're going to just work in the bronze up to the golds. And we go through the first of the gold pair. We add our 2 for our increase and go through the second of that pair. You can see how that sits. And then just working around in the bronze. Nice and easy rows. Of course you'll have 1 more bronze on this row because of the increase, and it'll go up. Each row will have 1 extra bead per side. So you're increasing 4 beads per row. And as you see, as we get to that middle, that center bead that we added, you just work in it as normal for the peyote. Now what you also want to do is you want to make sure that this is sitting up, because we want our wings to come over and fold over. So just make sure that your beads sit up when you're doing this. You can turn them later, but it's a little bit more awkward. Okay, So you can continue all the way around. For this row, adding the bronze just with the gold in the corners for the increase, and you can do this for this row and on the next row also, and then we'll come back. And here we are at the end of row 5, and you can see we have our wings forming, and we are on to row 6. Row 6 is done completely in the gold beads. So just the same, it's all just peyote from here on out. So you're going to work your gold beads down the sides with the 2 golds in the corners. Just really nice and easy. You can see holding the ball steady now, and you can put your fingers underneath the wings if you work this way, so that you're supporting that wing as you're working on it. Just helps that little bit for balance and getting your needle in, having the control that you need. And we're in the gold. And then she says it's tricky. Okay, so you will just work all the way around, and we will come back at the end of the row and get you started on the next row. And we're back, and we have now finished row 6 working in the gold, and we're going to move on to row 7 working in the turquoise. And this row and the next 3 rows following it, so a total of 4 rows, you are just going to work in turquoise with the golds in the corners. So nice easy batch of rows coming up. And just goes to show you how we're looking at this point. 2 golds into the corner. Have them sit correctly. And our turquoise. And that is all there is to it for row 7, 8, 9 and 10. So remember that you'll be increasing. You'll have 1 extra bead, turquoise bead, every row on each side. 4 extra turquoise beads per row. And once you've done that set, we'll be ready to put the placement for the flowers. So off you go. Up to finishing row 10, and we'll be back to start row 11. And we're back after completing row 10. The next row we are going to place our first bronze beads for our little bronze flowers. So you're going to work first off. We're going to work an E bead, and then we're going to do the bronze bead, two of our turquoise, and a bronze, a turquoise, and that takes us to the point. So you will do your 2 golds in the point, and on a full row you're going to work 1 turquoise, 1 bronze, 2 turquoise, and 1 bronze. And so that's where we're going to go across the row, is just the 2 turquoise and 1 bronze. And this puts all of our base, you know, the first bead, the first petal of the little brown flowers, little bronze flowers we're going to add. And as you see, our center bronze, this one is going to be directly center to the point. That would be where the original gold was. And if it isn't, then you've made a mistake somewhere and done your bead count wrong. So you know to check it. Okay, so just working across. And you will do this on each side, so every side is the same and have the 2 beads in the corner. So that is row 11. We'll be back for row 12. And now we've completed row 11. Row 12, you're going to be adding bronze beads at the side of each bronze bead. A thread caught there. So nice and easy, just adding a bronze bead at each side and a turquoise one in between, and bronze again at each side. And of course, the 2 golds in the corner for our increase. And you'll just continue on each side doing this for this row. Nice and easy. Just a bronze at each side. You don't even have to think about it. Okay, so you do that on each edge, and we'll be back for the next row. And here we are back, finishing row 12, and we're about to start row 13. And row 13, we're going to add the little gold bead into the flowers for the flower center. And then we're going to add 2 turquoise for our background. And then the gold in the center. Keep working around till we get to the corner. And then of course we add our 2 gold beads for the increase. Sit correctly. And that is all there is to this round. So as you're working, you'll just be adding those centers to the flowers on each side, and your increases on the corners. That's all you need to do for this row. And here we are with row 13 finished. Row 14, we're going to put the bronze petals in at the side of the golds. Then one turquoise, and then 2 petals on our little flowers. And of course in the corner, adding our 2 golds for our increase. And then working down the other side. Our bronze leaves, petals next to the gold. And our turquoise background. Okay, so you're just going to continue in that way, just finishing working on your flowers, building them up with their petals, and adding that one in the background, and your increases at the corners. And we are back at the end of row 14, and you can see our flowers are nearly made now. We're going to be doing 2 turquoise and 1 bronze, that last petal of the bronze flower. Let's not tie my thread up here, so that we're completing the flower on this row. And then our turquoise to the corner. And of course, our increase in the corner. And that is this row. So working the turquoise and our last petal on the flower. So you will work this row, and after this row, row 16 and 17, you will just work in the turquoise with the gold increases on the corners. So we will be back for the placement of the next row of flowers, and that will be on row 18. So complete this row, and then you'll work 2 rows just in the plain turquoise with the golds on the edges, on the corners, and we'll be back then. And here we are after our flowers have been completed, and we've done the 2 rows of the turquoise. So we're ready to place our beads for our next flowers. So you're going to start with 2 turquoise, and then the bronze. That's going to be the bottom petal of our next row of flowers. So as you're working around, into our golds, add our 2 gold for our increase in the corner, and your full row is going to be 1, 2, 3 turquoise, 1 bronze, 2 turquoise, and 1 bronze. And you can see that this bronze bead is the placement for the flowers is so that they're going to sit in between this row. So the bottom one is right in the middle of these two. And that is all you do on this row. And you would then make another set of flowers as you did with the first set. Just putting the bronze beads at either side, and then the centers in, and then the bronze beads on either side, and then the final petal. Okay, and here we are at the end of row 24, and you can see all the flowers are in, and I have done 2 rows of turquoise after the flowers, and so now we're starting row 25. Now row 25 is the same as the last 2 with one exception. So you're just going to work in turquoise until you get to the corner, and that is where the change takes place. This is actually your last row for the top wing. Okay, last one in. Now instead of doing the increase at the corner, we're just going to add our little drop at this point. Okay, so that's the only difference. Then you're just going to go back to working in the turquoise. So just turquoise rows with the drop in the corner, and we'll come back when we're done with this, and our next step will be to set up to add the bottom set of wings. We have finished our top wing, and now I've added a thread in to exit the same point as we started for the second for the bottom horn. So we're coming out of the same beads, and we're going to do the same thing that we did for the top, which is to add the 13 gold delicas, the 1 15 seed bead, and then another 13 gold delicas. And then we'll go through the next point, the beads of the next point, to make our loop. And don't forget to work that little back security stitch, going through the 2 beads underneath, and then back through the 2 gold 15s. Okay, so you've got your loop for this wing, and you would go and add the 3 more, and then you would work the wing in exactly the same way that you worked for the top wing. They're exactly the same. So you would finish with row 24, and so when you've got the wing out to row 24, stop, and we will come back and work row 25 together. Okay, happy beading. And here we are at the end of row 24 on the bottom wing. So we're going to show you row 25, which is where you join the wings together. So here we go, we're going to start our row working in the turquoise. few beads up here. Okay, so at this point, coming through the gold in the corner, on the regular row 25, this is where you added the drop bead. We're going to join this and go through the drop bead on the lower, well, it's actually the top wing, to join the wings together. And then you will just go through the second gold of the pair and snug those up. And then just continue working your rows. So that's how your corner is going to look. Simple as that to join them together. And we'll come back and I will show you the edging that we're going to put around the sides. So zip all those together, zipping your corners, and we'll be back. And here we are with all our wings joined. And the last thing that we're going to do is to add a little bit of embellishment on the sides around the wings. As you can see here, I've started to add some little 15 gold beads. And now I'm at the joining of the two wings. So we're going to just add one little 15 and cross over to the other wing. Pull this over. Okay, so just like that. And then you would continue adding down this side. It just finishes it and adds that little bit of interest, just a little bit of completion to it. So you can see on our finished one, just adds that little bit. And then you are done with pagoda. After you've done this on each side, you will just weave in your threads and you will have your completed pagoda.